Hello, everybody. This is the DammitJim Show with Sideshow Todd and DammitJim. I'm DammitJim. As you can see, Sideshow Todd is on location today, a secret unknown bunker, gathering information for security. For security and his personal safety. We can't release that location at this time, but he has gone to great lengths to be here with us today and to add his input to this incredible live broadcast here on YouTube of the DammitJim Show. Todd, are you out there?
Let's just say I'm lucky to be alive, Jim. These foreigners have been pumping me full of drugs, and, it's been weird, but I managed to get free, and here I am.
Well, that's what you call a patriot right there. He's fighting under God knows what kind of conditions, and he just to bring it you live here for you folks out there. So big thanks to you, Sideshow. Wherever you may be safe. Remember to shoot back.
Better than I just don't let you know. Undisclosed location.
Undisclosed location for operational security. So
what's on your mind today, sir?
Well, let's see. There's a few things on my mind, and I think that the number one thing that we need to really dig into is about the frustration with the see, I forgot which one we're going to do first. I am so good at this.
Taxes, wages, and services. Taxes,
wages, and services. Okay, yeah, let's talk about taxes, wages, and services. So this is what's been driving me crazy when people are just terrible at freaking math and understanding how the system works. Listen, taxes by themselves, the number of taxes, percentage of taxes you pay doesn't matter. Minimum wage as a number itself doesn't matter. These are not, and when you compare, especially when you start to comparing ourselves to other countries, because what matters is your buying power in the economy in which you live, how much your rent's going to be, your cost of living. All of these things have to be factors. It's like a formula where you say, oh, their taxes are 40%. That doesn't mean anything without context. So when we're talking about the services that the government provides us as citizens and the amount of taxes that we pay, the percentages and things like that don't matter. Whether the minimum wage is $10 an hour or $100 an hour is irrelevant. What's irrelevant is a working living wage, poverty line, these things that matter. And those things change by country by country. I've seen so many posts where people are just mocking and making fun of the entire the minimum wage. Like, oh, some burger flipper shouldn't be making $15 an hour. Okay. Understand what the minimum wage is, what it has always been. Was FDR basically decided that any man who works, and now man and woman, because this was done in misogynist time, if they work full time, they should earn a living wage. Now, living wage does not mean that they earn money to go on welfare and Medicaid and everything else just to support their family. We have been driving wages down. And again, the number doesn't matter, whether it's $1 an hour or $100 an hour.
You turn it around, when you turn it around on them. Like, okay, have you ever tried to live, when's the last time you tried to live on $15 an hour? Mm-hmm. Right? That equates to, just like you're saying, bad math, that equates to like fucking $32,000 a year. Like, when's the last time any person tried to raise a family on $32,000 a year in this country? It's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. So what happens? So we end up paying for them out of our taxes. So that's a bigger problem. Just in the thing. So if a person's willing to work 40
hours, give them money, they put it back into the economy. They buy things.
Well, that's, the high velocity economy concept. So yeah, putting more, it just okay. Here's the bottom line, folks. If you put money in the hands of the lower middle classes, that money goes back into the economy and helps everybody.
Faster.
If you put money into the wealthiest folks that don't have a need 1%. For extra money, they don't spend it. They save it. That's why they're in the 1%.
They only need one bag of Ruffles. Those families need 30 bags of fucking Ruffles.
They got a bunch of kids and the whole deal. But the problem is this the way the argument even gets started and told? The bottom line is there will always be people in the bottom of the economic scale and at the top. And that a good government that referees the system understands, hey, if you work your ass off, educate yourself, take advantage, and put in the blood, sweat, and tears, and you deserve to be either well off, wealthy, or even rich, or rich, wealthy, whichever way you want to put it.
Opportunity.
If you take advantage of the opportunities, you should be rich. But understand that those opportunities are presented in a society, and that whole society is an organism that has to be able to be healthy and exist. And when it doesn't, then nobody wins. You might win for your your generation, but what about the next generation and the kids after that and the kids after that? The society has to be self-sustaining, and there's a lot of things that go into it. So these arguments that get made and these flippant comments that get made just drive me insane because they miss the entire point. They're just people.
Yeah.
What?
Jesus is coming. So stop with this next generation.
He's not coming, folks. He's not coming. You have to go to him, or you got to go somewhere, and you're hoping that he's going to be there. It doesn't matter. He's not showing up anytime soon. Hey, you can have your religion, but here's the deal. The makers, the creators, God, whichever your religion is, they pretty much have told us through history that we're on our own by design. Here's the cards you were dealt. Play them. Stop waiting for some guy in a robe to come by, or yeah. Chris Mensa was saying that he believes he's the modern day Jesus Christ today. I thought that was kind of fun, and he was obviously kidding, but he was going to go off on his own rant. He's got the hair. He's got the look, but he's Canadian. Jesus is not from Canada. We know that. We don't know much, but we do know that. Santa Claus, is he white? Is he from Turkey? I don't know. But we do know that Jesus was not Canadian. I don't know much, but what I do know is pertinent. So pay attention to these details when I give them to you. So that was kind of my rant this week because I had seen a couple of posts, from friends about, they had walked in and they had seen, this automated booth. Oh, look, this automated booth's not making $15 an hour. And I just thought, what a disconnected comment. I'm sure it's good for a joke and it's funny between you because, a burger flipper lost their job to automation. But I think
fucking burger flipper is going to be at their door with a pitchfork taking that shit that they fucking want. Like, come on. You not understand the basic fucking numbers here.
I think that would be interesting is let people begin to study the history of revolutions and why they occur. And it almost always comes down to what? It comes down to one thing. What does it always come down to?
Yeah.
It comes down to money, property, power over their lives, but basically money, financial, or, if you have economic power, you're not starting a revolution. But if you have none and none's there for you, and here's the thing, and I brought this up a few weeks ago, George Bernard Shaw said, when we make poverty a crime, that's when a society is about to collapse. Yep. And that's kind of where we are. If this guy wants to make better money, he should go to school, and they should, and of course, they should do all these things, but at the end of the day, you still need someone to dig your ditches. You still need someone to pave your roads. You still need someone to flip your burgers, and we're happy to pay for those services. But those services have to pay. The society has to be a self-sustaining organism. So knock it off with the minimum wage bullshit. It's not about a teenager. The teenagers are not the minimum wage employees. They're their parents. That's who it matters. And when they can't find work in this country, and we won't provide them the education to draw them towards the work. I mean, think about it. We're bringing in immigrants. We're talking about it right now, about bringing in immigrants to fill jobs that Americans can't. Why? Because they're not qualified for the work.
Oh, and just
not because it's cheaper, not because...
Add to that, Jim.
Yes.
So the pussy grabber in chief, he has specifically goes out and hires immigrants at one of his hotels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was the first story that came out. Here he is trying to limit visas, but now he's trying to do a guest worker program, which every single those people in the service industry are telling you we need these folks. Yep. But that gets lost in the folks that don't necessarily. It doesn't impact their lives personally, so it's not necessary. Get rid of it. It's like it's all common sense. No. Common sense is a lot of times is the argument that people use when they don't really understand the subject. Oh, it's just common sense. Just do that.
And his ties are made overseas. All of Ivanka's clothes are made overseas.
Well, that's the hypocrisy, but that's the nature of business today. We've become an international. We've removed the engineering base, but here's where it's going. Eventually, automation is going to wipe out a lot of manual jobs. Hell, we're talking about having cars that don't even need drivers. Think about life in 50, 100 years from now.
Not even that long, man. Let's just go into that here. Let's go into the rise of the machines.
Rise of the machines. Okay.
So just from that, it's a multi-prong. We've already hit on a couple of them. Number one, there's hundreds of thousands of jobs out there in the manufacturing industry that are not being filled because they don't have the skilled labor to do it. Right? It's a real issue. And then obviously there's skilled labor jobs in manufacturing that are being lost to automation. So it's like a two-pronged thing, right? And this story covers them both. And this was in the Post. It's about this factory in Wisconsin where they couldn't find skilled workforce, even just workers, period, to staff the line jobs they had in their manufacturing plant.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy did a cost analysis. The guy running the factory said, it came to the point where the machines became sophisticated enough to fill those roles. So they brought in the machines, right? And now it runs with half the staff. And it wasn't because he was, he wanted to hire people to do those jobs. Mm-hmm. Like he couldn't get there just wasn't the workforce. So it's one of the things that like the retirement of baby boomers, and generations that doesn't want factory jobs, that should be a whole episode right there. Mm-hmm. The fuck are you talking about, man? I worked at fucking Best Buy when I got out of college. Pieces. Anyway. Alcohol, drugs, yeah. Blah, blah. Opiate crisis, whatever. So bottom line is it's happening right now. I mean, at a fairly fast pace. 100 years, I don't think even, we're talking 30 years from now, the American factories look very different.
Uh-oh. There's a ruckus. Okay, so the rise of the machines is a great topic for folks to begin to appreciate. We talked about this a little earlier too, about they're talking about a minimum guaranteed salary for countries where automation takes over so much of the manual labor and so much of the unskilled labor that we do, that we're going to have an excess population which doesn't have an opportunity to work, and the jobs that they used to do will not exist. Now, new jobs will pop up, right? But unless that workforce is educated and prepared to do those jobs,
yeah, they got to get a lot smarter.
Yeah, there's going to be what in the world? Oh, all right. My mother-in-law is walking through the house in the studio. She's actually interested. The dogs hate her, like they want to eat her. So there's the versus barking. Okay, so that's what's happened. So you might hear it a couple more times. She has a habit of walking through when we're live, but that's okay. It's part of the charm. Part of the charm of this Kmart production that I've pulled together. But let's go back to these machines. Back on point.
Machines.
Rise of the machines. It's happening. It's going to take, I'm saying 50 to 100 years, 30 years, whatever, doesn't matter. Matter is it's coming, it will be coming, and all of these services in a service-based industry are going to start replacing workers with this automation. We know this is coming. We know that when that happens, there's going to be a shift in the job market. Now, these companies, again, will still be able, what's the reason that they're doing this? Because one of the most expensive things that any company can spend its money on is personnel. Employees cost more than anything because you can't just buy one and they say, oh, these machines are $100,000. Yeah, I buy it one time. What's that going to be? 2 years of wages with taxes and health insurance and everything else that goes into an employee. So I can buy it one time, and then I got to hire one person to maintain multiple machines, and that'll get better and better as the technology improves. So that's where the world is going. The rise of the machines is going to happen. We've seen the movies about it. Well, now welcome to reality. So it even goes more important, back to these wages, taxes, and services rant that I was on earlier, was that those things, let's stop with this, half-witted sort of bad math of why these things are important or not important, because they don't make any damn sense. The end of the day is people need to be able to earn enough money to support their family, or they will, as Sideshow said, wind up at your doorstep with a pitchfork in their hand, because if they can't get it legitimately, they will take it illegitimately. That's just the human way. What's that?
They're coming.
They're coming for us. So that's the
get them a steak. Reality. That's all it is. They want to eat a fucking steak.
They want to be able to eat a steak. They want to be able to live well. And you make it almost exasperates when you've got all this advertising, which basically shows people how they're supposed to be living.
Yeah, like all fabulous and fucking rich.
Yeah, everybody wants to be a Kardashian or whatever and live this. Not everybody, I should say, but there's just it's important that the system works for the people, not just, we talk about the free market system, and the free market system is excellent as long as there's a referee and keeps things in line. But when you get things that are getting out of skew as they are now, where the wages of the top percentage are just so far outreaching the wage growth of the middle and lower classes, yeah, you're heading for disaster. And when somebody makes an effort to raise the minimum wage, and then you push back against it. I just think, what exactly are you looking at?
It's the largest wealth disparity since the Gilded Age, since the turn of the century.
Right.
Which
Led to what? It led to not only the crash of the markets, it also led to World War. You think that the economics didn't have everything to do with that war? Economics has to do with every war. Every war. You know, Clinton said this back in like 92 when they asked him about how do you blah, blah, blah. He said, it's the economy, stupid. It's the economy. It doesn't matter what subject you want to delve into. You want to go into healthcare? Everybody bitching about this and that. Bottom line is they care about what they have to pay their premiums if they want to go see a doctor. It's the money out of their pocket that drives almost every decision. Now, they may round about it and find another way to get there, but at the end of the day, it's going to be the dollars that they have to put out of their pocket that's going to motivate them. The services they receive and the dollars they spend. That's what matters. So, you know, you want to get the American people behind something, figure out a way to help their pocketbook. You do that and you do it right. And then, you know, then you can start to solve issues. So that was we kind of combined the two, but that was my rant of the day. Where do we go from here, Sideshow?
Well,
taking fire.
You want to go with the energy, coal, electric cars and stuff?
Yeah. Let's talk about energy, coal, and renewables. I predicted this for a long time. You know, in a couple hundred years from now, school kids are going to be looking back at us and thinking, what kind of morons were you that you felt the need to dig up coal, natural gas, drill for oil, when energy is quite literally raining down upon us from every direction? If it's not the wind, it's the sun. If the sun, it's the ocean. What? Hold on to what?
Well, hold on just one sec. I mean, think about, I agree. I'm 100% behind you. We never should use coal again or leave it all on the earth. Same thing with oil, essentially. But as far as our evolution with energy is concerned and technology, I mean, it's been like meteoric. I mean, it's incredible. When you think about where we were 5,000 years ago as civilization, as society, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a micro fucking blimp in the timeline of our planet, right? I mean, it's nothing.
Right.
So for us to have evolved to where we are already, it's impressive. And you know, granted, because we are aware, conscious, and all those things, it seems like it's eternal, mm-hmm. right? And we are at the cusp of a great change. We're like, you know, at the turn of the century, every turn of the century, right? Well, we're at a cusp of a big change, and we see it, and we're so close to it, and we want it to happen. But I mean, it's going to happen pretty quickly. You know,
mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? I mean, coal, like the fossil fuel, all the big fossil fuel companies are investing major league in renewables, right? They're shifting all their R&D there. Like, it's not, you know, the consumer, you know, it's on the rule. It's already happening in that side of it. You know, mm-hmm. Granted, our administration is trying to pull the lever backwards, but the momentum's already there. It's already happened, right? The momentum's already going to carry us out of fossil fuel,
mm-hmm.
pretty quickly.
Right. The momentum is definitely going to pull us out of fossil fuels. It's going to happen. I think even the most ardent, like, solar's a bunch of crap. You know, there's a big carbon footprint for making solar panels sort of argument. Even they agree that eventually that's where it's going to wind up. So let's stop sandbagging it.
It's got the whole technology now where your whole roof is the solar panels. Like, they're putting them on all the Tesla employees' houses.
Mm-hmm.
And they're supposed to be fucking kick ass and last for like 40 years.
Well, that's, you know, again, as things develop, we see the speed of technology in this world. It's unbelievable how fast things change. And when the economics are there, it'll happen even faster. So yeah, these renewable things are going to happen. They're going to happen. And, you know, I understand the argument where you don't just, you know, completely pull out of the oil and coal base and just completely disrupt the economy. You make this shift. But when to do that, you include basically a lot of false science, a lot of false reports, a lot of, you know, things that just don't even add up in order to support your position. You know, that's just very frustrating to the process because that's where we need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're trying to, so obviously to keep the money in a certain group of hands when it comes to energy policy,
mm-hmm.
and those hands are trying to retard the whole movement. Mm-hmm. That pretty much sucks.
All right. Why don't you set up the next topic? I'm going to step away for a quick second, and I'll be back. And
Sure. You want to do one of your? You want? Do you want? Did you want to finish with your hate and the fear? What the hell? You got to go to the bathroom or something?
pretty much, I'm about to blow. I forgot to do that before we started. So,
Bathroom break. So play some elevator music then.
well, you can do that too. Just actually, it'll come better from your computer. Why don't you play some elevator music? Why don't you look for some?
I don't think. Well, I don't know if it'll come through. I'll try. NCT timeout. Dun, 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 dun. Jim's got a small little girl's bladder. Doot, 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 doot. All right, let's try. Don't know if it's coming through, but. And he's back.
Hello, everybody. Okay. So, hey, before where were you? Before I was going to make a couple of public service announcements.
Go make your public service now.
So, hey, folks, if you want to get a hold of us, you can try to Skype in. You just have to find me. It's DammitJim Podcast on Skype. We can take your calls live. So if you're listening and we're driving you crazy with a liberal libtard bullshit that you need to come out and set us straight, give me a call. Or if you want to tell us how great we are. Okay, Bring it. But you can call us either on Skype or you can reach us. Again, it's going to be DammitJim Podcast at Gmail, or you can find me on Facebook, same name. So, anyway, if you have anything to say or want to, let us know. Idea for topics or thoughts on what we've said, we'd love to hear from you. All right, Todd, where are we?
Hate and fear versus hope and belief. You going to finish with that?
I do want to touch on this because, we live in a society right now where the culture is really focused on hate and fear. I think we all know that. We've heard all the rhetoric in the politics. Instead of hate and fear, I would love to see us start looking at hope and belief. There's a lot of great things about this country. We love this country. We love its constitution. We love its systems. They're being put to a test right now, but I think they're doing okay. I'm hoping that at the end of the day, we're going to see that our democratic system can overcome, problems. We're seeing bipartisanship happening in the Congress again, which, hey, may be the silver lining to the cloud that we see as the Trump administration. That maybe the Republicans, Democrats realize, hey, maybe if we work together, we could secure our. I mean, I know odds are, but it's politics. They're going to do it to secure their power. They're going to do it to financially improve their lives and the people around those lives. But that's part of politics, and we kind of understand that this system may be the greatest ever created, but we're still young, only 240 years old. Right? 240, 250, 1776 to now. What's the math on that? About 250, give or take. Not quite 250. So we're still very, very young as a republic. If we're going to survive, we need to survive these tests. We've done great things. We've had bad things go down. All good. But look at all the things we've accomplished. And it's time for someone to step up in a leadership role and say, you know what? Yeah, maybe the healthcare systems in these other countries aren't everything we want them to be, but we'll do it better. Maybe we'll take a look at our country and go, man, these roads and bridges are falling apart. We need to make sure that these are okay and put those things back into the same level they were back in the 50s. We need someone that looks at our tax system and understands that rewarding the super rich, which goes on all the time. I mean, the amount of corporate subsidies and money that goes out. I'll give you a great example. I understand why people don't like government. Here's a great reason why. If you look at, like, for instance, the corn industry, right? The corn industry is heavily subsidized by the U.S. government. So they can sell their corn overseas at competitive prices. Because if they just had to grow it in America and sell it, they would get killed by a lot of other countries because they can grow their products cheaper because their economic system and their labor forces are cheaper, blah, blah, blah. So the government subsidizes. Well, FYI, that's kind of price fixing and illegal because you're selling something essentially at a loss so that you can compete. So,
but it's so cheap. Like the whole entire agro business is like is built on cheap corn almost because it goes through cows. I mean, every kind of animal you can think of, even though they don't eat, it's not their natural food. Cows should not eat corn. It's not good for cows to eat fucking corn, but that's what they feed them at the end to fatten them up before they fucking send it to the slaughterhouse.
Because they can make more money because it's based on weight, I assume. I don't know. I'm not an expert in how that system works.
It's super fucking cheap is my point.
Yeah, it's super cheap.
In the food industry, keeping food cheap, the sweetener, what is it? High fucking fructose corn syrup. Right?
But all of
so
that's...
It's in everything because it's so fucking cheap.
Right. But a lot of it, well, not a lot of it, it's all subsidized by the government. Now, do you realize that in the world trade market that the United States pays out? So let's say we subsidize the corn industry to a tune of $100 million. I'm just making up numbers. I don't have the numbers. So let's say we subsidize the corn industry to a tune of $100 billion a year or $50 billion, whatever the number is. You know, we also pay in fines to other countries to not grow corn. For instance, Colombia, I believe Argentina was involved. I'd have to get the story back then. But here's the reason why government is insane. So we're paying $50 billion to the farmers so they can afford to grow corn, and then we pay $50 billion to South America so they won't grow corn so our guys can compete. So now we're paying both sides of the freaking coin to get back to net zero. That's government in action, and I understand why that drives people freaking insane because it's crazy. But that's what happens in the world of politics. But that doesn't mean we can't do better. We just need people to recognize and understand that, serving your political agenda isn't the way to make America great. There's always going to be politics. There's always going to be pork. There's always going to be that stuff. That's part of the package with this government system. But you find a better one because I don't know of one. So deal with all of its flaws and all of its warts and whatever, but let's start thinking about all the great things we can do. We can have the best schools. This country should be an enlightened land where we have the best museums and the best education system and the best roads and the most beautiful cities and the most prosperous population because we have the money, we have the power, and we have the ability. We're diverse. That makes us so much stronger than all those homogenous societies that exist out in the world. So let's stop worrying so much. When did we get so damn scared of everything? Scared of gays or scared of Muslims? It's like flavor of the week. Who are we going to be scared of and blame all our problems on? It's not very American. Not the way I was brought up. Not the way I was taught to think.
Well,
so
Jim,
what? Go.
Hold on a second. It is very American to fear the brown person or the new immigrant. It's what we do. I mean, it's been going on for hundreds of years. So we just have to evolve and understand that it didn't solve our problems 100 years ago. And it's not going to solve our fucking problems today, blaming the fucking Mexicans. So
yeah, I agree that we've always done it, but I don't agree that that's American way. I think that's contrary to the American way. It just happens to exist in America because there's so many people who all have their own worldview of what America is, and so they go forward with that. But doesn't mean it's right. Just because that's your personal view of it doesn't mean it's right. The American way was built on prosperity. It was built on the individual. It was built on that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Our Declaration of Independence.
Most of the time, dude, that applied to white people.
That is factually 100% true. Doesn't mean
the white people that wrote all that shit, right?
Well, because America is an experiment. It's a workshop.
Yeah.
We've never actually.
Exactly.
I mean, think about the Constitution. We've never had the Constitution apply to all people. It's only applied to certain portions of the population.
Yep.
But we've been expanding that.
Yes.
It's nowhere near where it used to be. We've made this incredible progress. This progress is incredible. No time to backtrack. No time to pat yourself on the back either. Because our generation, what has our generation really done? I mean, there's some great things. You look at the internet and technology and the scientific advances that our generation has made. It's incredible. But there's this backlash on society against all that stuff. Nirvana, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Did you throw in Nirvana?
What our generation do, I said Nirvana.
Nirvana, yeah. Well, we own that. That's for sure. We can pat ourselves on the back for that, I guess. I mean, they're part of us. They're one of us, And there's good and bad with all of that. But the more important thing is, the hate and fear, to me, is just sad and weak. And just back off. You can do anything you want to if you try. And what does anything you want to really mean? Well, it just means that 99% of goals out there are achievable if we just put your mind to it and you just don't quit. You're consistent. I mean, not everybody can be, the cleanup hitter for the Yankees or the Cubs if they're really smart. But that's a very specific thing. But generally speaking, you can be a great athlete, or you can be a great doctor, or a lawyer, or welder, or whatever, carpenter. Doesn't matter. You can do these incredible things if you're just consistent, you try and you want to do them, and you work at it. So that's a great start. Now let's apply that to our country and stop being afraid of everybody, because we'll just they'll just get pushed to the side by the momentum of a country going in the right direction.
Well, and on top of that, eventually honkies are not going to be the majority. So brown people will be the majority in this country in our lifetime. So you better start working with them because they can apply the same principles that we use to make our lives fucking miserable. I mean, I hope not. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We need to evolve so
we hope the future generations look back and go, that our parents were just being stupid about this. Because being brown, yellow, black, white, that's, we have great leaders. Judge a man by the content of their character. Really, that's all. And again, man, it is. This is a total aside, but it's interesting to me how our language is built on sort of these misogynistic ideas. Like I always say, man, it's just, it's not because I'm thinking not all people, but that's just sort of in the language. We grew up that way. And that's really kind of, that
was proper English. I mean,
it was proper English, but it's sort of like disenfranchising 51% of the population by calling, because she's a woman, but and then you get words like herstory. You've heard that one? Female history is herstory. Like, oh God.
Oy.
Yeah, exactly. Like that just makes it worse.
Come on now.
Okay. Let's just,
So let's move on. Let's finish up politics, because this is what I want to hit on before we finish.
Okay.
And this is just more. This is kind of more in the. It is more. It is actually good because it's in the whole economic vein, and so it's a. This actually was an NPR for me, and it was about the governor of Kansas, Governor Brownback, who was recently nominated to the Ambassador of Religious Freedom, which I didn't even realize was a fucking real thing. Unbelievable. But anyway, so he's now one of Trump's boys, right? And he is leaving as one of the most unpopular governors in history. And for one major reason is he implemented pure, conservative Republican supply-side economic policy. Huge tax breaks to corporations, low taxes for the wealthy, you name it, the whole fucking deal, right?
Yeah.
And it led the state to complete economic disaster, right? They can't pave roads, they can't pay cops, they can't do shit. They are in deep trouble, and they had a big bipartisan bill to scrap the whole policy, put in a brand new tax package so that they could get the income in to start actually paying the fucking bills. And here they are. I mean, it was a perfect example of the failure of their whole entire economic policy, and the fucking guy gets rewarded.
Well, that's how it does often work. You promote the incompetent to get them out of your way, and hope maybe on the next level. Yeah, I mean, the experiment in Kansas is a shockingly absurd one, really, and interestingly, you still hear arguments from the side saying, "Well, you just got to give it more time." Well, what indicates to you that you have to give this system more time?
Yeah,
I mean, taxes have to be paid. And the fact that people have a wealthy position or business and they help create more jobs because they're running, and so they don't have to pay their taxes, and suddenly the country is going. I mean, you don't have to go back very far. I mean, we had a balanced budget when Clinton was in office. You can go back and forth about who was responsible for it, but he had to sign it. It got through. Things were going one direction, and you look at the explosion of the debt that happened after Bush and after he went into 2 unpaid for wars and all that. you know, how long do we have to keep pretending that these crazy economic policies are good for the country overall when they're clearly, by all evidence that we can find, they're clearly benefiting a very small percentage of the population at the, basically the detriment to the average person. And, these are just bad policies. Again, we're going back to bad math. I mean, show me where this has ever worked. Show me where supply has ever worked. It's
Never
not. I have no. I mean, I'm sure someone can come up with an example of some small way that it might have worked, but it's just not the way. You can't just. This is an old business proposition that I, used to use when we first started our company. We would talk about how does a company grow. Well, they grow by spending money, and I've heard people say that you don't become prosperous by spending money. And I'm thinking, that is about the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. That's like saying you don't grow corn by planting seeds. You spend money. You plant money. So listen, if you don't have enough money, you got two choices, right? You can either reduce your expenses, put negative energy and work backwards, or you could increase your income. The smart ones, the rich ones, the ones that are successful, they increase their income, because that's the way you move forward. So these states that are using these policies are saying, well, somehow this money is going to trickle down, with this supply side economics no, it's not going to trickle down. That's not the way it works. You need to invest in infrastructure. You need to put money in the system and get it running around. You need people to be working. You need people to be having enough money to go out and spend it at their service locations, be it a TGI Fridays or a fancy steak place. They need to be able to afford to do that. Henry Ford, one of his tenants, and this is not a great guy, Henry Ford. But he did say this. He's like, I want to make sure that the people that build my cars can afford to buy my cars, because otherwise you wind up in these unbelievable situations where you've got employees basically putting out products that they themselves can never use. Well, who the hell's going to buy those things? Because you need to spend it in the masses. So, the Sam Brombeck was a
guy that one of the what you call it, the Amazon billionaires, right? One of the guys who helped Bezos start Amazon.
Yeah.
He's like very much a Warren Buffett type billionaire. Like, I want to pay 30%, 40% of I'll be fine. I'll pay that tax rate. Like, that's fair. He goes, here's the thing. I can only buy so many fucking cars.
Right.
Like, all my people in the company can buy a hell of a lot more cars than I can buy.
Mm-hmm.
And that needs to happen. And that's for a healthy economy. The people need to have, the work, a living wage, as we talked about earlier, in order to actually make the consumer engine run. It doesn't work otherwise.
No, it doesn't work. And here's to top on that, because a lot of times people say, well, you shouldn't take, the redistribution of wealth. You shouldn't take money away from somebody who earned it and give it to someone who didn't. Except for that's not exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about employees who are contributing to the success of these companies, but who aren't being compensated by the success of the company.
The same way that
all the success goes to the guy. Now, the guy that invested is at the top. He should get the most. He should get the lion's share. That's fine. That should happen, because they probably took the risk. They probably were the one that orchestrated the entire company and built it, whatever. They deserve to be really well compensated for that, and I don't think anybody has a problem with that. The problem occurs when they crush the wages of the employees who contributed to that success as well, so far down that they can no longer even afford to buy the products that company is creating. There you have a basic imbalance that, and that's just a very small, simple mathematical example, but you extrapolate that over the entire economy and you have a recipe for disaster, a recipe for civil war, revolution, which has happened countless times throughout history, and almost every time because of that exact same formula. So, I don't know, let's not do that. Let's take a different tact. Yeah. CEOs don't need to make $400 million. I'm sorry, but they didn't earn it. They did not earn it. Don't tell me that they earned it. They didn't. No. They earned a really good salary. They didn't earn so much money that their grandkids never have to work again. Because their grandkids won't have any of that, because the pitchforks are coming if you keep going down that road. That's the common sense. And here's the thing, too, is all philosophies that we're talking about put money in the pocket of the common man. I mean, almost everybody we know is amongst the common man. None of us are, multi-billionaires that I don't hang out with any multi-billionaires that I'm aware of. If they are, they haven't told me about it. So, it's me and all of my friends and colleagues, and they're the ones that are going to benefit from a society that actually compensates people appropriately for the work they put in. It's a big economic mathematical equation that has to go into all this. You don't want to give people stuff for free. You want them to work to earn it. 100% you want that because, people have to actually climb the ladder. They actually have to get off their ass and do the climbing. But they have to have a place to climb to as well. And that doesn't mean making minimum wage flipping burgers and your best hope is assistant manager at the McDonald's because you just don't have any place else to go. Maybe you didn't get the education. Maybe you're divorced. Maybe you're the person that took care of your family was tragically passed away early and you're forced back into the workplace without the skill sets other than being a stay-at-home mom, for example. All these things. They should have an opportunity. If they're willing to do the work and educate themselves, there should be a ladder. We have the capability. Let's make sure everybody has it. So I'm in a rant kind of mood today, Todd.
Apparently, you're on fire.
I'm just going off. I'm just tired of it. Nope. So anyway, all right. Do we have any more on Sam? We talked a lot about Sam there.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just for me. It was just it was such a categorical failure, and they don't sweep it under the rug. I mean, it should be bigger news in my opinion. That whole entire Kansas debacle. It's almost like Backpage, but it is. And then they want to talk about the media being biased, but who fucking knows about that whole situation beyond like the fringe weirdos like us, right? Mm-hmm. That should be like, hey, here's a perfect example of the pure Republican economic system, and it created a complete economic disaster. What it did, like it was there, Donald Trump. It forced bipartisanship in the Kansas, Senate and House, because now a bunch of Republicans went over and started working with Democrats to get a new economic bill put together, right? Because they realized they'd be all gone.
Right. So, well, at some point, you need enough people who are more interested in the actual interests of the people than their political careers to take action.
Making a point or making some sort of weird philosophical fucking point, like you're like fucking Ahab with this shit. It clearly doesn't fucking work.
Right.
And it's not saying that the other side is purely right either. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you represent an interest that also needs a seat at the table, right? It shouldn't be purely all socialist. I fucking 100% agree with that. Mm-hmm. There needs to be capitalist interest involved. Some people start a company and take it as far as it can go. Absolutely.
Right.
But that's not what we're in. We are in a gamed system where there are, where the winners already start out way ahead, right? And they can buy all the rules. And all the rules are built so that they continue to be successful, and who are not in that club can't it's tough to make it as a regular fucking dude.
Right. I mean, we're lucky that we're in a country that there's no caste or creed that can't be successful. Doesn't mean there aren't roadblocks for people because they get put in a category, but they definitely still. I mean, the scales are heavily weighted in favor of those of the haves, and not the have-nots, and that's It's hard when they end the position and then they start doing stuff that's just purely ideological that just gets them richer and richer and then people vote.
Doesn't help their base, and then all of a sudden fucking Donald Trump's goddamn president.
Yeah. But like you said, again, back with the hope and the positive things that we can do, we realize, but you know what happened? We forced some opposing people to come together. And that's the beginning signs that give me some encouragement. Encouragement we're not seeing from a lot of different sources, but we are beginning to see something happen where, like I said last week, if these guys want to fix healthcare, now's your chance. And if you actually do it and push it through, I think Trump will sign anything because he's Trump. He just wants positive reinforcement.
He wants to win.
Yeah, he wants to win. So if the Democrats and Republicans sat down and actually fixed the problems with Obamacare, or even better, went to like either a Medicare for all. I mean, they're already talking about doing a Medicare for you can buy in at 55 for basically like $8,000 a year, a little bit over $8,000 a year. Which
at that load of money, man.
It's still a lot of money, but it's a lot less money than they would pay for health insurance in the open market because they get charged the most because at 55 is when your health care starts to get expensive. Which, because, which, again,
Grand.
your primary earning years, you don't need health insurance for the most part because you can get away with it. But you start hitting 55, 60, you can't get away with it anymore, or you could
I
just
hear
get
you,
sick
man.
and
But
die. But
most Americans don't have $8,000 in their savings account.
no, but they're already out of pocket more than that for health insurance. I'm not saying it's a great plan. I think single payer is the only way to really go, and we'll eventually get there. But it's going to take a lot of work to make that happen. Oh, we got text coming. I wonder if somebody has a question.
Doubt it.
Oh, Matt was not on, obviously. Sorry, Matt. So Sideshow Todd is in an undisclosed location for operational security, and he's currently calling in under fire, mind you, from the hot zone, so he can be with us here today. But thank you for your concern. But he says you sound really good, which I think is...
Thanks.
That's how I know he's lying. Putting up baby Brian to sleep, but can jump on after. Oh, and we got Leanne. Oh, we could do a whole bit on redheads. What's with the rise of the gingers, anyway? I'm a little scared about that.
Rise of the Gingers?
Yeah. Well, it used to just be that, people had red hair. But I'm just a little bit worried about the gingers in general. They're all crazy. Like they got a secret club. I think they kind of might be like the Masons or something. Because
Did you ever see the South Park episode about the Gingers?
No, I probably should have, though.
They fuck with Carmen. They painted him like a ginger, and he got all the gingers in town to form a big fucking society, and they try to take over the world.
Well, that fits in perfectly with all the gingers I know, because let's see. I'm sorry, getting questions in. Looking if they're.
You can't do two things at once.
Well, these are questions for the show, but. So yeah, well.
What's the other question? Are you redhead uprising? What?
Well, the one question was about where were you, because they don't know, they can't see you, they can just hear you. They apparently don't appreciate the cap and the nose there.
I said, foreigners maybe do a lot of drugs. Foreigners maybe do a lot of drugs. So
and then it was my buddy Matt who was texting me, and then I thought about his wife Leanne, she is a trip. She's awesome, but she's a ginger, so I think she might be one of the army. Like she could be like a general in that army, and she kicks some ass. She's something. They're putting little baby Brian to bed right now, but they'll be online soon enough. But it just reminded me of the gingers because they're everywhere. I keep seeing all these ginger posts. I'm like, why is the gingers suddenly a thing? I mean, I didn't even know what gingers were. My sister's a redhead, which makes sense because she's kind of wackadoo too.
You've been living in a fucking cave. How do you not know what gingers are?
I know what gingers are. I'm just saying that all of a sudden they became a thing. Like, when did gingers become a thing?
Ginger kids.
Ginger kids. Gingerbread houses, ginger kids. I don't know, man. They're going to take over the world.
Well, actually, this leads really well into the next subject, genetics.
Oh, yeah, genetics.
So, in the world of science. So, the first human embryo editing experiment in the U.S. corrects gene, heart condition.
Yeah.
So, scientists have successfully edited DNA of human embryos to erase a inheritable heart condition that is for causing sudden death in young competitive athletes.
Right.
Cracking open the door to a controversial new era of medicine.
All right. So, what do you think about that?
Well, here's my stance on that. So, obviously, when you look at the balance of nature right now, with where humanity is at the apex of the food chain and all those things, and, we clearly have just gone ape shit. There's just too many motherfuckers on the planet. Period. We've completed a complete imbalance in nature, and it's manifesting itself in dozens of different ways. And I'm not just talking about fucking climate change. I'm talking about the giant fucking garbage patches and all the fucking oceans. Dead zones of oxygen in the fucking Gulf of Mexico, 8,000 miles long, or not 8,000, 800 meters, whatever it was. It's not 8,000 miles, but the biggest dead zone ever.
Right.
Right. So it manifests itself in a variety of different fucking, mass extinction of fucking species all over the planet. Right. So clearly, in nature, like all other species, had put these systems in place to keep, to create the homeostasis. Right.
Right.
There was many things that we've been able to essentially control that made nature, like I would say, for instance, like the appendix. Right. Modern science doesn't really know what that was for. Right. But it's almost like a little bomb that goes off. Boop, that human's gone. Well, we fixed that. right?
Mhm.
You apply that, modern science or modern medicine to all major diseases, right? There's no plagues, there's nothing at all to cull, the humanity. So
Right.
now we've conquered all those things, and
Mhm.
now we're fixing even like minute things in the genetic code where nature has kind of selected, like, well, that combination has this issue, so that combination dies off, right? But
Right.
we're fixing that now. We can now change that code so that is no longer there, and nature's little, experiment to take that line out to cull essentially.
Mhm.
It's moved. And those are, how many people have that defect, right? It's not something where everybody's just all people are dropping dead left and right, right?
Right.
There's billions of us. So it's a like, one whatever of the population this affects, but we're even fixing those things
Mhm.
until what? Like, what's the end for this? So what do you mean? Well, why would you do this? Like, what is it such a big issue that,
Well, I'm sure it is for the person who has the condition.
well, yeah, because they're looking at it in a singular point of view. They're not looking at it as themselves as a large part of a larger system.
When do we make decisions that where we pick the many over the individual, like as people?
No, well,
As a human, you wouldn't, right?
Pick the I.
So if it
over
was,
the many.
what's that?
We pick the I over the many.
Yeah.
Yes. Would I do that? Yeah. What are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you. If it was your kid and you could fix a potential heart defect that they would drop dead on a basketball court, and you say, "So, well, we could fix it or not. It's up to you." Would you go, I'm really kind of for natural selection, or would you say, "Yeah, fix my kid's heart so it doesn't die"? You'd probably, I would think.
I don't know. I guess here's the thing: if they're born and little Jimmy's got a fucking hole in his heart and he's going to be in the hospital for the next fucking 15 years of his life, no, that's an easy decision. Let him go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no kid deserves that life. That's not a life of a child.
Right. But if you can fix it so they don't have to do that,
yeah.
Then
I don't
you
know.
would.
I would think about it. I would not just pull the trigger.
Well, I'm sure you wouldn't.
Then I'd be a giant fucking hypocrite.
Well, I think no, you wouldn't be a giant hypocrite. You're looking at all sides, so that's intelligence, and you're welcome to change your opinion based on the information that you have versus the personal versus the larger, and which is interesting because I think that really explains a lot about the difference between, let's say, a government and a society making a decision versus an individual. You're always going to make the decision that's best for yourself because, well, that's. First of all, it's just natural and instinctual to protect your young. But if you're running a society, then you have to make much harder decisions, which I think is really what you're getting at. So it's a little bit unfair to ask that personal question, but I wanted to kind of say, well, that's where it's going to go eventually, because we're talking about, even though we're talking about, this as an overall thing.
Well, we're talking about
it comes down to individuals.
Exactly. We're talking in the focus of I again, right? Versus the larger context of what that means to let all these people now who would have probably passed away and dropped off to now be, live to 90.
Right. But
so what's that larger implication mean, right? And that's just one instance. That's just one little thing that they obviously can find other genes to do the same thing in the not too distant future.
Right. Well, the thing is, this is just saying, listen, we can cure more and more disease so people don't die off as quickly as they used to. And the idea that we have too many people on the planet I don't agree with that. I don't. And the reason I don't agree with it is because that every economic system that we have requires a growing population to sustain it. We already know the birth rates in Japan are terribly low, and that their society is going to be unsustainable because they're not birthing enough people to continue growth, because economics are based on growth, not homostasis, as one of your favorite words might be, but economies are based on growth. So, since economy does drive,
if you have a growth-based economy, you're right.
And pretty much the entire first world does. Now, we also have enough food and resources to feed and care for the entire world, probably 20 times over. But we don't have a good distribution system for that, so there's a lot of starving people in the world.
Not just distribution. We don't have a good sustainable way to grow food right now we are not practicing sustainable farming on a large enough scale to make it feasible to feed this many people.
Right, but when you're feeding corn to cows, you have extra food. There's a lot of you have farms that are being shut down.
It's not just the distribution of where that food's going; it's how that corn even got grown.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, yeah. Okay. I'll grant you that. Every topic that you can delve into gets deeper and deeper because it's more complex than just one little snippet. And you're 100% right. There's much more to that. But the point is that the human race has the ability to do all of those things. We're just not doing it for political reasons. And well, I mean, and from a sociological standpoint, it's a good example. It's a good point that people that may be what they should do. That's not what they actually do. And so do you want to do with the world the way it is or the way it shouldn't be? Let's get back to the DNA thing because I think this is bioethics, basic bioethics. At what point do you stop using science to intervene in healthcare or development of a child? Because obviously the first thing people say, oh, so I can pick the color of my kid's eyes. I can pick, if you've seen the movie Gattaca, that's Gattaca. Yeah. You know, natural born children were basically ostracized. So we got a whole new race now. Now we got a whole new way of just, people basically that were bioengineered get all the great jobs because they're going to be faster, smarter, less chance for heart disease, all that stuff. And then the people that say, screw that, I'm just going to do it the natural way. And those people become the ostracized. That was the movie Gattaca, and that was what the whole thing was basically about and how they got around it. My personal opinion is, anything that's positive, you push forward with. And so anything that increases your knowledge, anything that increases your ability to treat disease or help people, you do. And then you figure the rest out later. I just don't want to risk.
It's kind of our problem in science in general. We come up with a solution and some incredible thing, and then we figure out all the ethical part later. I mean, it's not had very good outcomes up to this point.
Really? I'd say we've had some bad outcomes, but I wouldn't say it hasn't had good outcomes overall. I mean, how many scientific advancements that you can look around your house and look at caused the kind of death and destruction, let's say, nuclear weapons did? Because almost every technology gets turned into a weapon somehow or another, right? So I would say that while you're right that there are terrible things that happen when science left unchecked, there should be bioethics. At the same time, if it's positive for the human race, I believe it should be done. And then you deal with what comes later instead of stopping. You can't stop progress because if you stop it here, someone else is going to do it anyway.
You should stop it, but ask some fucking questions.
Well, ask the question like, well, how far does this go? And my answer is it goes as far as you can take it. You keep searching for knowledge. You keep up searching for knowledge. You never stop that endeavor. That is never ending. Humans will always find a way to corrupt it or make it a bad thing. We know it's going to happen. We just have to hope that as we move forward, people are incentivized to stay on the positive side and not destroy us. But history has shown, to your point, that every major society that's ever existed in this world that we can find historically has been destroyed. And will be destroyed too, probably. The odds are, well, currently I think we're at 100%. Every major society that's ever existed has been destroyed. So,
well, I mean, the British Empire wasn't really destroyed. They just had to give everything back.
Yeah, and they just gave back the Union, so Brexit. So,
right. With the exception of the UK. I'm sure Northern Ireland would say, fuck you, but, everybody else in Scotland's thinking about breaking off. But you know what I mean? They just had to go back to their island. Right on. So,
but
they did lose.
I think it's a great, again, the bioethics of it needs to get discussed. Do we really want to start fiddling with DNA? And that's where crazy laws come from too. Like say, oh well, what if you do if that you're predisposed to breast cancer, and you want to have the DNA of your child adjusted so they won't have to deal with it, and the government goes, yeah, we're not going to qualify that one. You know what I mean? Because the government's going to eventually, there has to be a governing body over this if you're going to put the ethical, ideals in place. So now you've got people making decisions for the society over the individual. It leads to a lot of political turmoil. And again, in the right hands of the right people, it might work great. In the wrong hands of the wrong people, or using it as a political football, it could go horribly wrong.
You would hope that the person would make the decision. You know what I mean? Like it would not have to be left up to some board. Like that we have that instilled in ourselves to know that we are part of something larger. And sometimes we have to make decisions on behalf of that connection.
Right.
And
But there'll always be a doctor you can go to. There'll always be a person willing to go outside the.
I'm not. Yeah, I agree.
And that's
I'm not
fine.
saying about the fringe people. Fine, but I'm saying, as a rule of society, right? Of course, there's always going to be rule breakers.
Right.
There's always going to be people who run, right?
Which I think is, and actually for a topic for next week, I think we should talk about the importance of the black market in society. Because anything that you can't get legally, you can get illegally, right? There's not really, especially in this country, there's not really anything that you can think of that you can't get your hands on if you really, really wanted to get your hands on it, right? You might just have to have the money and the influence, but even like basic stuff. There's not a drug on the market you can't go to the dark net and buy.
Yep.
All you got to do is log in, find someone who'll sell it to you, and hope that you actually get the drug you bought, but that's the black market. But what you're talking about... Oh, I have another call coming in. Hold on here. Hey, Chris, are you on?
Hey, yes.
Todd, are you still with me?
Uh-oh. Did you lose Todd? Long-time listener, first-time caller, Jim.
Hey, well, welcome to the show. So let's say you were talking about the dark net. Why don't you give us a little primer for next week and give us what's on your mind? Go ahead.
Sure, I can be your darknet call-in expert for the show next week. Or as expert as I can be. And I don't know where I got cut off. What I started to say is just you're absolutely right in what you're saying. You can pretty much find anything on there. It's not as probably heavily tilted towards things like murder for hire and stuff that people always think of, but when it comes to drugs and whatnot, that's it doesn't take you don't have to be too savvy on the computer to go find that stuff.
Right.
But one thing I was mentioning is there's been a lot of shakeup in the darknet. Two of the biggest markets have been taken down in the last month or so, so there's definitely a lot of, and by like government agencies, and so there's definitely a lot. And then I don't know how much you follow this, but then so the one big market was Alpha Bay, and they apprehended one of the admins. He was over in Thailand, and he ended up committing suicide in jail after they apprehended him.
Oh, right, because he didn't want to be extradited, right?
Yeah, and
right.
Then about a month later, they took down a website called Hansa. And then it turns out that the law enforcement, I think it was in the Netherlands, I could be wrong, I'll look into it, but they actually had control of the site for about a month, so all the activity that had been happening on there, they were tracking and getting people's information and whatnot. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of
it's very
people
dangerous.
scared out there. Yeah,
and I can understand why, but we'll talk more about it later. But it's interesting because is that really a whole lot different than what happened with people that dealt with the mafia and loan sharking in the past? Where if you go to the dark net and you get yourself in a bit of a mess, well, you were doing something illegal just by going there and participating in that business. So, well, sure, you can get whatever you want from the dark net or from illegal means. Doesn't mean you're not going to get caught. Doesn't mean you're not going to go to jail, because somebody usually goes to jail. So, hey, man, I appreciate you calling in.
Yes. I just wanted to chime in. I'm excited for next week.
Next week we will have a whole section on the dark net, folks. We're going to have to. We'll bring up some topics and we'll give it some time. And me, the owner of a technology company, will figure out how to use technology, and so everybody can be on the call at the same time.
Perfect. That sounds awesome.
Apologize for my senility.
No.
So
capital idea.
All right, my friend. Thanks a lot.
I'll let you get back to Todd. Yes, I'll keep watching. All right.
Here we go. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, Sideshow Todd.
Did you figure that shit out?
Well, I didn't. I don't know why I can't get you both live at the same time, but you know what? I'm thinking I'm going to do that offline, because I tried hard enough online to waste enough of our show. So, I added you guys to the same call, but for whatever reason, only one of you could talk at a time. So, Chris did a nice job of giving us a little primer for the darknet. Some intrigue that's going on with government agencies. So we can have a nice segment next week, and he's going to call in and be our darknet expert, because not that he's ever been on the darknet or ever bought anything in the darknet. No one's admitting anything, but he seems to have a knowledge of the functionality and working. And I don't know. Do you know about Bitcoin and all that stuff? I mean, I've heard of it.
The Tor network. I actually used the Tor network at one point.
Oh, well, then you guys could probably have a really good conversation, because I'm not really into that stuff and I'm not really familiar with it. Guess who's up?
It's just software. It's just so you route your internet activity through about 10 different machines. So they don't really know IP address you're coming from.
Yeah, they call it an onion browser, and I kind of understand how that would work theoretically, but
you don't have to go to the darknet. You know what I mean? It's just a way for you to mask your IP so everyone doesn't know what you're looking at.
Right, exactly. But then once you start to engage in the darknet or any sort of illegal activity, I guess the primer there would be, you can get anything you want from the black market, but that doesn't mean you won't get arrested, because it is the black market. It is illegal, and once you go down that road, you open yourself up to that opportunity. So let's not pretend that doesn't happen. But it only happens to a small percentage of people based on the size of the black market, from what I understand. But again, that's a primer for next week. We're going to have an in-depth conversation about what it is, how it works, and how you can break the law and possibly get yourself arrested. Up to you. It's not on us.
Jeff Sessions is coming for you.
Yes. That guy just makes me want to eat a cookie. He's a Keebler elf. That's just rude and uncalled for. I more don't like him because he's just he's an ideologue. He's I don't know. There's a lot of things about him personally that I do not agree with.
I still like the way he talks. I mean, God.
No, I don't like him personally, but that's sort of petty. I think the fact that he has voiced a lot of opinions that I just simply don't agree with. He's going after a lot of the drugs and drug crimes that he's using policies that have been proven to be not effective, and fill the jails full of minor offenders, and he's talked very heavily about going after the legal marijuana stuff and rolling back the Obama, who just kind of said hands off, let the states deal with it. And it's like, why is that the place to spend our money? The American people don't want you doing that, so why are you doing that? Well, he's an ideologue. Whatever. We'll talk about him later. I thought we moved on to something a little more fun.
Like what?
So, the Chicago Cubs. The Chicago Cubs have just lost 2 series in a row. You should be ecstatic.
Yep, I'm pretty happy.
They're down to a half a game lead.
They're lucky. They're just lucky Milwaukee sucks. It's really what they're really lucky.
Yeah, that's
because otherwise they're not in the conversation.
So today I was at the store, and we were buying some stuff, and the 2 kids that were working the register, one was working the register, one was working the bagging, both had LA Dodgers caps on, and they were very astute. They noticed my Chicago Cubs sunglasses, which I'm touching my head, but I'm not wearing right now. But if I were, that's where they'd be. So we got into a little jarring match, and there was nobody behind us in line, so I was able to go on for like 5 minutes. My wife was halfway out of the store, standing there, was giving me the glare. And these guys were a lot of fun because they're both young and they're big Dodgers fans. And they even said, hey, the only team that we're afraid of is the Chicago Cubs. We figured we'll walk over everybody else.
Stupid.
I don't think it is. Have you seen our lineup? Our lineup is like, our lineup is epic. It's epic.
You see the Nationals lineup? Those guys all actually hit. Nobody is impressing me in the Cubs right now with their bat.
Really? Look up Wilson Contreras and tell me that kid does not impress you.
If it wasn't for that dude, they wouldn't even be 500.
But the thing about it is, there's always another guy. If Rizzo's not stepping up, Bryant's stepping up. If Bryant's not stepping up, Zobrist is stepping up. Javi Baez put one deep into the seats yesterday. We have what?
Yeah, what's he hitting? That guy's hitting like 240 for the year. So great. Even a blind squirrel gets a fucking nut, man. I mean. And you're not going to say the Nationals. You're going to say that the Cubs have a better lineup than the Nationals.
Well, the Nationals have the core of their lineup is really, really tough. I mean, they're more consistent than the Cubs, but I don't know if they're better. They're older. They're old, man. They got a walkable cane. Bryce Harper is what, like 50? Here's
their 2 through 6 hitters: 345, 326, 308. 335 and 309.
Because they're in a shit division. They get to play out. They get to play the Mets and
whoop the Cubs' ass.
They did not whoop the Cubs' ass.
9-4. I'm looking at the score right now.
You're very hostile.
All right, so they're sort of back. Whatever.
They're back. Hey, they're in first place by half a game.
It's terrible. 58-52. They're the worst first place team in baseball.
Correct. But all that matters is the playoffs. We learned that last year. That's all that matters.
I just don't want you to get your hopes up on 2 knucklehead Dodgers fans. That's all.
They're scared of the Cubs. And
they're
should
idiots.
Be. They're what?
They're idiots. They're not even. The Cubs aren't even.
I will not let you insult my new friends, by
They're
disparaging their
better.
intelligence. No. They're Dodgers fans, so obviously they're idiots. That is not the point. The point is they're scared of the Cubs. Are we clear? Okay. Let's go to your Bears. The Bears are going to be a third or fourth place team. I heard on the television today.
Your Bears, our Bears.
Our Bears. Did
Okay.
I say your Bears?
Yeah, the fuck.
I don't know. Yeah.
So anyway,
Maybe
yeah.
Who-
You know, it's actually I was reading some stuff today. It's not as doomy and gloomy as it normally is. Everybody's writing good things about Glennon. So
Yeah.
it feels like to me, as long as the guy gets some protection, you know, he's a competent quarterback, and you know they could move the ball. And they got good running backs. Everybody's talking highly about the little guy that they fourth round, but you know, he could get killed in the first preseason game with his size. As far as but they still always got Howard. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
So I don't know.
he better be
And
really
Sam
damn
Darnold
elusive. Is
looks
what he needs
good,
to.
and Kevin White's 100% healthy and full speed, no restrictions. And
Yeah.
that Sheep guys look really good.
I appreciate that, but this is the time of year where every team is optimistic.
Not the Jets. No, sure. There's some teams out there. Everybody's like, "What? Don't even bother with that roster."
Yeah, that's probably a good point. But how about this? The biggest Bears story of the day, actually yesterday, kind of, and today. I'm not sure when the actual deal got signed, but our boy Jay Cutler and the Cutlets are all moving to Miami to play for Adam Gase and 1-year contract to replace Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm thinking this is going to be the opportunity that shows that it wasn't Cutler's fault. All those years in Chicago where he caught all that crap. I think he's going to have another great year. I think he's going to light it up, and people are going to like, what the happened? Why is he so great now? Da, da, da. They're going to cry up the fucking river. And the bottom line was he was never the problem in Chicago. He just got stuck in a bad media loop of whatever.
As long as he doesn't get hurt.
As long as he doesn't get
He
hurt.
doesn't get hit, man. I mean, the guy's got a track record to get, he gets hurt.
Yeah, but he's also taken.
He got the snot knocked out of him the first couple years in Chicago. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I was 100%.
Yeah, we've had this conversation.
I never thought he was a pussy. I always thought he was a tough kid. I knew he had diabetes, and he was fucking taking a beating. There's no doubt the guy's a great athlete. Period.
Yeah,
He's a tough kid. So it's just there's more to being a quarterback, obviously, than that. There's a lot of guys that got great arms and fucking fast that don't make it in the NFL.
Yeah, agreed. But there's a reason why he got brought in there, and I think the reason is that he's a better quarterback than I think a lot of people give him credit for. And I think the reason he's doing it and not staying in the studio is that he's got a little chip on his shoulder. He has something to prove.
Well, he gets to play for Adam Gase. I mean,
who he had his best year under, right?
I mean, he'll have a good year as long as the offense is still the same one that Adam Gase. It's just different terminology. All he has to do is learn different terminology.
Right. But you also know that Adam Gase knows how to coach him. Obviously, the one guy that really apparently could. So I don't know. It's kind of exciting for me. So hey, man, we have exhausted our time this week on the DammitJim show. So you gotta what's that?
I'm ready to be done.
You're ready to be done? This is getting warmed up.
Dude, I told you.
Of course, I'm not in a war zone or wherever you are. Not that I'm going to release your location. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been the DammitJim show with our good friend and co-host, Sideshow Todd.
Good night, everybody.
Good night from Sideshow. Good night from DammitJim. Goodbye, everybody.